for setting up the room. Appreciate it.
All right, I'll be included, so in one more minute.
Do we have to call?
Yeah. Just call it order.
Of course.
All right, here we go. Full house.
So I have bad news. I have an emergency that I have to go to. It's part of the job, so I should make it by the meeting though.
Okay, we'll have the guys excuse you at the regular meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Justin.
Standing outside that door.
So, yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that, those doors, they don't use very long.
Start the regular meeting. You can make a motion.
Yep, that's true.
It's Justin's.
It just goes in this with it for a refill. I get the
Yeah, that's their phone. Julie, before you start recording,
It's already recording. You can pause it.
can you mute it for a second?
Sure. You want to call the workshop to order?
I would like to call the public official liability training workshop to order at 5 p.m. on the 18th, 17th of January. Thank you.
All right, Wes.
Okay, that it?
That's it.
We're open and we're running. Good evening. My name's Wes Crago. I've dropped my car off and I'll get one of the briefcase when I can access everything without knocking over it all. I work for Clear Risk Solutions, which is the administrator for a pool of cities and fire districts that come together to create an insurance pool, the CIAW. And I'm actually new to the insurance world. I've only been doing this job for about 3.5 years. Before that, I had a job like Darren's for about 17 years in 2 different cities. And then before that, I was on the city council and a football coach in a little town called Ephrata. I come to this, I got picked up by Clear Risk because they needed somebody who can speak city. I've got a lot of background and a lot of war stories. I have been a part of city governments that were crazy and made the papers for all the wrong reasons. And we straightened that out and we kept notes. And I've been able to go around the state and actually tell the story of, okay, here's some tips about how to keep from becoming in the paper for the wrong reasons or right the ship when it's starting to go down. And I've spent a lot of time on this side of the state, on the other side of the state, mostly towns about this size. I think I was talking to Julie this morning. I was out in Ocean Shores for quite a while when they were going through creating the mayor, strong mayor position about 15, 20 years ago. It's been a little while now. So thanks for having me out tonight. I like to start just with, I'll kind of start broad and I'll get real specific at the end, but I'll kind of bounce back and forth between like really practical and really philosophical as we go from broad to narrow. But I always start with just a little bit at the start of the presentation. If you could just, in like 3 words or less, tell me why you were on the city council.
Oh, I have the honor.
Yeah, I know you're at that side, Jeremy.
Yeah, in 3 words or less, you're gonna have to take a few more than that. You know, I'm a public servant by career, and I saw an opportunity here to do a lot of good things that I think myself and a lot of the citizens of Cosmopolis hope for.
Nice. Sir?
Retired a few years back and I've been here 35 years, came to council meetings and said, you know, why don't I give that a try like everybody else?
Love it.
And so I ran for office and somehow they elected me. I'm not sure still to this day how, but they did.
Doesn't matter how.
So Linda Springer, my entire career, I retired about 4 or 5 years ago, but not really. So my entire career has been about public service in education and state services. When I retired, of course, had to take on more and love this community, a lot more words, I know, but really started projects in the community, making a difference, and I realized this was the next step to really have a more impactful purpose.
Okay, nice. Julie?
I'm not elected.
Well, it's okay. You're serving.
I am serving as the finance director for this city. I actually started in a career in accounting back as a teenager. My father was a commercial fisherman, so I started by doing the books for his business and then just took it from there.
Nice.
My name's Mark Collette. I've been in public service for most of my life, if you include the time that I started in the Marine Corps. And I've done 31 years in corrections,
Okay,
serving the citizens of the state of Washington.
yeah,
And I've lived here since 2000, so I wanted to take an opportunity to serve the citizens of Cosmopolis.
nice. All right.
I'm not sure if I'm even supposed to be here. Jim Ansich, I've been on the council for 12 years. And actually was looking forward to leaving, and then one of the other council members resigned before, so I decided to stick around for a couple of years
Nice.
and finish his term out. And what got me here? Put up or shut up.
I hear ya.
That's what made me run, was
Yeah,
either shut up or try to do something, so.
yeah. Darren, you got 3 words for me?
Not 3 words.
None of us.
I grew up here, grew up or worked here my whole life. Been here working with the city now over 36 years. Been in all departments, but law enforcement. I was actually in fire for 2 short periods of time as interim fire chief. Not really in department, but I count it. But it's been a dream. It's home. It's something I've always deeply cared about, this community, through, good times and bad, and we've seen a lot of both.
Yeah.
And we're heading back towards good here hopefully soon, so it's just, yeah, it's a great
Nice.
place to be.
I like it. Chief?
Okay, police officer since 1993, served in the city for 25 years. Chief of police for a year and a couple months, and looking forward to finding solutions to problems.
Outstanding. Thank you for all of that. That speaks to me. I live in Spokane now. I took a city administrator there for a short period of time. But my heart is in towns like this. I love, everybody talked about community, everybody talked about service. You got long-standing people that have been here a long time. That all speaks well of Cosmopolis and about the future. And also, the fact that you said, hey, let's get some training, let's polish things up, let's make sure we can do things right. That also puts you in my favorite of members. I really believe that if the leadership of a community is doing things the right way, everything will kind of fall into place after that. That you'll have less claims for people wrecking cars, you'll have less harassment issues, everything will just do better. We're gonna talk about, it's called creating balance, but really it's about relationships. We'll talk about that a lot. I'll tell war stories, but I will not. I'll try to keep the names out. I might let a couple slip by, but for the most part, we'll keep the names of everybody out of it. Really what I want to do is just go real brief with most of the time on roles and responsibilities. Elected, appointed, and the differences in what everybody needs to do. A little bit how I can support you and help you out with things. And there's some basic tools I'll talk about, and then any of the specific things you want that I might mention policy-wise, I have copies of that I can email you tomorrow when I get home, or tonight really late if you're up working late. This is the outline of the presentation. I want to get done in less than an hour. I will talk very quickly. If something doesn't make sense, if you go, what have you, please stop me and interrupt. So that I'm here for you, not here to run my own show. And if you want to ask questions, I'll stay here all night. If you are done and checked out and it's 40 minutes, great. We'll go either way. The middle of it, I will say, I've got these pledges and principles. That is the most important part. So if you were inclined to take a quick nap, don't do it during that part, all right? I am an ex-teacher. I will probably come and rap on your shoulder a little bit if I see that, but we'll try to go pretty quickly. And yeah, anytime you have a question, please interrupt. My background, got my history degree at UW, go Huskies. Give a moment of silence, please, for everything that's happened in the last 3 weeks. We have my master's at Central, teacher coach. I was city council, mayor pro tem. Then I got involved with insurance pool on the board, city administrator in 2 different towns, and then got snapped up by Clear Risk, and this is what I'm doing now. We've got 2 pools that I oversee. They're one of counties and one of cities. And my specialties, what I got involved with is crisis management, like any city administrator is gonna be good at that. Communications, and then kind of the 2 different forms of government, which got me wandering around the state of Washington, talking to big cities and small cities about why we should overthrow the mayor or why we should institute a mayor. And yeah, lots of stories about that. Clear Risk, we are a full 100%, everything is in-house. You call us, you're gonna get us. We don't farm out our claims, we don't farm out things like this. My day job is running the pool, not doing presentations, but this presentation I maintain control over because I think it's really important and it gets me out seeing all of you, which I think is better as an administrator of the pool. But everything we do, 99% of our, I should say 99, we have about 100 employees and 80 of them, so 80% are in Ephrata. The rest were kind of scattered around the state. I'm in Spokane, we have West Side people. But the big thing is you're not gonna get somebody in Chicago or overseas when you call. We handle everything ourselves. We try to do it all in-house ourselves. Disclaimer, I'm not an attorney. I don't play one on TV, and I did not stay at a Holiday Inn last night. Anything I tell you is advisory, but run it past your attorney, run it past yourselves. Don't just take what I'm telling you as gospel that you have to do this. And in fact, we never tell any member in our pool, you have to do something. We might lay out consequences, but we'll never say you absolutely should not do that. We might say, you know, it's gonna cost you a lot of money if you do that, but whatever, we'll be there to support you either way. Okay, I'm gonna start with culture. Most important thing we talk about, most important thing I talk about is what kind of culture do you have in your city government? And by culture, it's the unwritten, unspoken, often way of doing business. What's normal in the city government? If I walked into your city council meeting, I would pick up on how you do business. I would describe that as part of your culture. New staff member comes on, some things are written down, other things you learn on the job. What is that culture? What's the way of doing business? The best organizations write down their culture. Good organizations are good about communicating that to the new person, like this is how we do business. The ones I worry about are the ones that say, I don't know, that's just how we've always done things here. That's not a good sign. Writing it down is a great thing, and my first of many challenges to you is if you do not have a mission statement and a set of values written down at City Hall, the fire station, the police station, at all your plants, you should have that. Just nothing more than mission, or motto, like one sentence, and then 5 or 6 values. Like this is what we value here, and it should be descriptive of what you actually do. But sometimes you want them to be a little bit aspirational, like, well, we're trying to be this, we're just not there yet. Towns I've worked for, one of them, 1 page, motto, 5 or 6 values, then we had like goals for the year. Other town I've worked for, the mayor did a 49-page booklet, printed it, front and back, full color, and then sent it to all these cities around the state because people really wanted to know what the goals of the next coming year. Mayor was a little bit technical, not a bad thing, but a little bit longer than most people are gonna like pass on to somebody else. Here's some suggestions. Good communities I work with, good organizations are very unified, they're very professional. I won't read it all. I'll focus on this one. I like professionally boring or boringly professional. That's a great thing for government. Stay out of the paper unless you're giving out awards, right? Hey, we got a grant. Here comes the, here's the giant check. We'll get a picture with it. Otherwise, stay out of the paper. No drama. Drama's bad. Ones that are bad, they have this kind of stuff. They're very divided. They have people exercising authority that they don't have. Secretive, backstabbing, trying to play gotcha games with staff or with the council, laughing stock. What's the paper that's in Aberdeen? Daily Record?
The Daily World.
Daily World. You want to stay out of the Daily World. Every now and then, every community gets the bug. It moves around where it's just a little bit of a circus at their city council meetings. Some cities, they're very susceptible to it. Other cities, they never hardly get the bug. But everyone will go through it. Here's my suggestion for some kind of motto. Don't use this, although if you want to, I'll charge you royalty. But something about a good motto is our community wants to do the most good for the most people for the longest period of time. Come up with your own words. But that's usually what our job is in local government. We're trying to do what's right for the most people for long term, because the cities don't dry up and go away. Always going to be city of Cosmopolis. What's it going to be like? Most people, not just the complaining people. Most good, not just good for the small thing, but good for everybody. And that's the art of being on city council. That's the art of being a city administrator, a chief. You've got to make those judgment calls. Any questions about culture? I'm moving fast. We're going off. Foundation of everything we're going to talk about. Okay, yeah, I used to teach civics and history. You can tell. Separation of powers. This is where it all starts. And this is kind of good. You're kind of, Mayor, you should kind of be theoretically in between the two, but Darren's got a pretty good spot for, you're kind of physically almost lined up with the way. Elected officials are legislative, not you though.
I know that.
Okay. Council members, you are legislative. You're like Congress. You do policy, you do laws. Executive, and the mayor, Darren, staff members are all in the executive. They do the things. Kind of, it's what should happen, how it should happen. That's really important because this is the first slide we get into specifics, because this is where most towns go off the rails. Either the administrator or the chief want to run things, or the council members want to run things. And you mix and match, and it really goes off the rails. Council members, you are elected to make the tough call. If I'm a citizen, I don't have time to go through all the stuff, all the data. That's your job. You're elected to do that. You make the best call you can. Your job is not to count hands for whoever shows up at a meeting. It's to make a judgment call based on the best information you can get from the mayor and from the staff members. It's all based in the Constitution and even in RCWs on compromise. You have a strong opinion, you two have a different opinion. How do you settle that? You discuss it. You argue. You give a little, I get a little. It's the strong boring of hard wood. It takes a lot of time to get what you want. And not to be overly political, but right now in Washington, D.C., we do not see compromise. We do not see both sides working together. I'll talk more about that. Any questions on this stuff? Moving on. Roles and responsibilities. I'm going to keep on that theme for a bit with some examples. Leadership team, which is basically city management, mayor, and city council. City council, you are governors. You will guide, direct. You will talk about what should happen, and your only authority is part of a majority of vote. As one city councilman, you have no power. You have no authority. You're a city council person. You only exercise your power at this meeting, at this table, because it's a special meeting, right? But theoretically, when you are together, you can vote, and that's when you have power. As an individual, you may have influence, but you don't have the authority as one to go direct anybody. That's the mayor's job. That's Darren's job. On the other side, the mayor and Darren are going to figure out how to take your leadership and turn it into practical things. One of my favorite examples where I've had to have some really rough conversations as a city administrator with a city council member was we had a council member when it snowed would like to tell the plows where to go. And you got a poor plow driver, you got this, 21-year-old, just got his CDL, he's out on the plow for the first time, he doesn't know what to do, it's a council member. The council member doesn't know what he's doing because he got a complaint from someone who wants to go out and direct traffic. We just sit him down and go, look, you don't do that. You can set the policy that we will follow, but I and the public works director will tell the guys where to go on the plows. And make sense? All right. Couple examples. We use a naval example because that works pretty well. Council members, you are the admirals. You are, I can't really see the ship, can you there? You can imagine a ship. You're in the chart house. You're in a really nice place. You don't even look out at the ocean because you don't care about one ship. You care about all the ships. You're in charge of the big picture. You're looking maps and stuff like that. You only are really going to talk to the captain, which, depending on what's going on, could be Linda, could be Darren. I have a whole program on just like relationship between administrator and mayor.
We were close.
That's the best kind, when there's a little bit of trust going on there. You talk to the captain. You don't go talk to the crew. You'll never see an admiral in the engine room telling the gang how to stoke the coal and do the things they do in an engine room. That's the captain's job. He will do that, but he actually probably won't pull the actual lever very often. You're thinking about something, Mark.
Thinking back in the days when a certain general relieved a sentry on Christmas Day so that he could go in and have Christmas dinner.
I like that. Sacrificial leadership.
Yeah.
And then you have your city staff, or like the crew on the Navy ship. They will do their jobs. They will talk to Darren and the mayor and Darren will talk to the crew, have a good relationship, and they may come to council and talk to you on a social basis, but you don't want the guys in the engine room, or gals, telling the captain how the ship should be run or where the ship should go. That results in mutinies. That's a bad thing. Same admirals, don't get down here and tell things going on here. Now, big emergency, you guys show up to see what you can do, to be around, to be available, show support. That's very different than directing traffic. But being there, going to get a coffee, that's a sign of a good tight-knit community. Make sense, the difference there? Another example, baseball. Not quite baseball season yet. I can't talk about football for a little while. Same idea. Council members, you're like the owners of the Seattle Mariners. You sit in a skybox during the games. You are dressed nice. You have people taking care of you. You're not worried about the game exactly. You're worried about the season. You're worried about next season. You're worried about how you're going to spend money. Are we making enough in concessions? You're looking at all these things. The mayor and Darren are like the manager. Baseball's perfect because they even kind of dress like a player, but they never go on the field. They're very close to the players. They're sitting there in the dugout, they're chewing, they're spitting, they're doing all the things, but they're not actually on the field very often. And then you have your players who are on the field, and that's your city staff. And this works really well for thinking about what your role is and about what your focus is and what your job duties are. Staff members, they know what they're doing. They're on the field. They may have an opinion about what the owners are doing, but they're not in charge. Things get weird if that happens. If you know baseball history, there was a team called the New York Yankees, which is incredibly successful until a gentleman bought it by the name of George Steinbrenner. And George Steinbrenner wanted to be, he was the owner, but he wanted to be right here. In fact, he started going down in the dugout. They went through, I think, 12 managers in 8 years, Billy Martin being about half of those, on and off. And he destroyed the franchise for quite a while because he didn't exercise his authority in the proper role. Moving past that real quickly, council, you're elected to make policy decision. Mayor, you are elected to lead the personnel. You should always do that through Darren if possible. And then you've got staff members who are going to follow the mayor through Darren. And then just, I throw this out there because I can't always look for these things. You have appointed people who may be under contract. I don't know if you have personnel contracts with high officials. Some cities do, some cities don't. You have employees, some are in a union maybe, some are not. That's a different relationship. And then you have volunteers. And all I would say, the only reason the volunteers are on there is treat them like they are on staff, background check them. They can get you, a volunteer can get you in just as much trouble as anybody on this list. I love people being involved in the community, but you don't want to have the volunteer hop on a loader and go move sand for the day, right? Or a weed whacker, or anything to get them hurt, that kind of stuff. I'm not going to go through all this, but your city administrator needs to have a great relationship with all of you. The mayor and the city administrator you can talk to at any time you want, no matter on any subject. There is no topic that you can't have a conversation with Darren or Linda on. It doesn't violate the law, it doesn't violate open public meetings, just do it one-on-one. They're your ambassadors. They're going to be out there speaking for the city. They're going to advise you, but at the end of the day, you have to make the call, council members. You're making the big decisions. So summarizing this, day-to-day operations, the mayor through Darren runs the city. The administrator is kind of the chief of staff. They're the counselor for all of you. They're going to organize your stuff. They're also your best shield. So have a good relationship with your city administrator. That's important. You don't have to like each other. It's great when you do, but if things get weird, they're going to probably get the phone to Darren before they get the phone calls to you. They're going to show up at City Hall when they're upset before they get to the council. Not always. Sometimes they are going to go to you, and I'll talk about handling complaints at a later time. But if Darren is on board, knows what's going on, you have to have a good relationship. He is your best protector. I like you talk to having a close relationship. We call it iron sharpens iron principle, that you can go into a closed room, and this applies to any of you. If you have a problem with something's going on in the city, get the mayor, get Darren, go into a room, shut the door. Fight like cats and dogs. Say what needs to be said. Have it out. Use whatever language is appropriate for the situation. Settle it, but when you open the door, you're on the same page. You're on the same team. At a council meeting, fight like cats and dogs. It'd be more professional, of course. Have it out. Have a good, hard discussion. Take the vote. Whoever wins, they won. At the end of that, shake hands, and you're all on the same page. This is the direction we're going now. The wagons are heading west. And you're still, the relationship should not be broken by having a dispute. Disagree without being disagreeable, et cetera, et cetera. You have to have trust and loyalty. More about that later. Being non-political is important, which in itself is political, to say you're non-political and maintain non-political. I did about 30 years in local government by being non-political, by not taking a side, party or principle. It was simply what's good for the town. Although it looks conservative, looks liberal, I don't care. Good for the town is good for the town. I will say when it comes to money, conservative is a little better, a little safer. And then everybody should bend over backwards to give the credit to somebody else. Your staff members come to council meeting, they should give credit to the council and the mayor and council, you should always give credit back to the staff. Just, it should be a big huggy fest, back slapping everybody. We love each other, it's great. You can't really see it there, but there's a chicken and a pig. Gotta stop. You ever heard the parable of the chicken and the pig at breakfast? It's a descriptor of the difference between elected leadership and appointed leadership. At breakfast, chickens and pigs are important. The chicken is like the elected officials, highly involved with what goes on in this community. You're the leaders of the community. The chicken is highly involved in breakfast. The pig is like your staff. The pig is committed to breakfast. All right, if your staff takes a strong stand, please listen, because their livelihoods are on the line. Their families are involved with this stuff. It's a big deal. It's a very different relationship between losing an election, which would be horrible, and you wouldn't like that at all, or all the other things that can happen, but have respect for your staff, knowing that they are very committed, their jobs are on the line, their family's livelihood is there. Okay, This is the most important part, all right? 4 things, 2 pledges, 2 principles. This is the big part. If you get this, you're gonna be successful, I think, in anywhere in life, all right? I've distilled down 30 years of leadership down to 4 things. 2 pledges. First off, mutually pledge to each other. If you want to do this like formally or in writing, I think that's cool. But this, we will never surprise one another. Staff will never come to a meeting and surprise you, elected officials, with anything. And elected folks, you will never surprise your staff. This is not saying that you're not going to have a hard conversation. You got a budget coming up, there's a dispute, there's a controversy. Elected officials, go to your staff members and say, Chief, I got a real hard time with the budget. I'm gonna ask you tomorrow night at the council meeting to justify cars, tasers, whatever. Chief now can do some homework and be prepared for a hard question. The reverse is also true. Darren's got something to throw at you guys gonna have a rough decision to make, let you know ahead of time. Hey, I'm gonna bring this up, we need to talk about this. You're not surprising one another. And when you do it this way, when you give each other a heads up, as a community, whether they read in the paper, they hear about it, or they're here in person, what they see is they see elected officials asking hard questions, and they see the staff members having professional answers. Might not like the answers, you might not like the answers, but at least everybody looked like they're doing their job right. And that makes a community go, well, you know, I never really like the answer, but I feel like everybody's kind of, the government's functioning well. There are a lot of communities where this does not happen. The council tries to play gotcha games with each other. They try to surprise the staff members with embarrassing each other, or the staff members will try to surprise the council and embarrass the council with questions they don't know how to answer, or they're not prepared to answer. Things should be on the agenda. If it's on the agenda, you know it's going to be talked about. You don't talk about stuff not on an agenda. That way, everybody knows what goes on in the council meetings. Don't surprise one another. Second one's even simpler. You never talk crud about each other. You never talk negatively about a fellow council member, about a member of the staff, about the city. No staff member should be bad-mouthing the mayor or bad-mouthing a council member, ever, ever in public. This is also corrosive. This is like cancer for a community. When people start bad-mouthing each other, things start to spiral. It breaks down trust, it breaks the relationship. You can say, I really disagree. You can do the whole British, you know, oh, my distinguished colleague, I think he's in error here. I don't care what you do, but don't go negative in public. I don't know, Rob, going to Safeway when I was on the council, when I was at city administrator, it took about an hour to get milk. Leaving church took about an hour and a half because they really get after you. It's just how it is in a small town. Watch what you say. Always be positive. You get a complaint, you're Safeway, someone goes, hey, you know what Darren did? Let me tell you, try to cut him off. It isn't the place to have that conversation. But if they do, just say magic words. Let me look into it. Let me get back to you. And then call Darren. And your staff members, all the way to the last person you just hired in Public Works, if they get a complaint about one of you, they should do the same thing. Hey, whoa. Let me look into that. Let me get back to you about that. And then you can talk about it, you can think about what to say. Council members, very important that you don't take a stand as an individual about any city business because you may have just compromised your vote. You take a stand like, hey, what do you think about what's going on with this annexation thing? Well, I think that's terrible. And it comes to a vote, you kind of went on record with people before you heard all the evidence. There are certain situations legally, especially with land use, where you can be disqualified. You can get the city in trouble and you can get yourself in trouble. And I'm not talking insurance trouble, I'm talking legal trouble, where I'm going to tell you there's no coverage for breaking the law. No surprises, no disparagement. Second, principles. There's newer examples, but I'm sorry. I like this one because I was in high school. Ronald Reagan Nowadays he'd be a moderate, but back then he was he was a little bit on the far right, conservative guy. Tip O'Neill, very clearly on the far left, Speaker of the House and President, both top officials in the chain of command at the same time, but for a long time, for like the first year, nothing was getting done. And I believe it was Reagan, doesn't matter whom, but at some point one of them said, hey, why don't you come over, we'll have a drink, we'll talk about these different, let's hash it out man to man. And they started having a drink together at least once a week or more. And with Tip O'Neill, probably several drinks. But what they found out was they really liked each other, even though one was like a strong, passionate liberal and a strong, passionate conservative. They found out that they liked each other relationship-wise, and they started to work together, because then it was not, I'm gonna try to beat you. It's like, okay, Tip, what do you need? What do you need from me to get this thing, how do we get this thing moving and we get some stuff passed? And they became maybe one of the most effective teams we've had, even though they're on opposite parties. Kind of hard to think about that today, isn't it? We've come a little ways from that, but these guys used two principles that are really important that I think, again, if you can internalize these for yourselves, you're gonna be very successful no matter what you're doing. One is leadership is persuasion. You persuade people, you don't dictate, you don't yell, you don't arrange vote, although arranging votes, that's part of the game. But you want to persuade people to join you. And that takes time and effort and creativity, and goes back to compromise. You gotta sometimes give a little bit to get something you want. And the other one's accountability. You gotta be accountable, and you gotta show you're accountable to the public. It's not enough just to like pass your audit. Invite the public to come listen to the audit. Publicize the audit results. And it's not just accountability like what you're thinking of. Quick war story. Ephrata wanted to build a pool. Our pool's so old it fell apart, and we had to, somebody said, let's build a nice new one, you know, the little beach things and the water features and the slide. We had study sessions at lunch and in the morning. That's when we, you know, we're all working. So that's when we met. We did it for months, hours and hours and hours. Looked at all the different options, took votes, solidified it, came to the council meeting saying, okay, here's the plan. And the city manager at the time, close friend of mine, put it up on the screen, and we took a vote. Great, we're gonna have this new pool. And the town went nuts, negatively, mad, because it looked like it was a rubber stamp thing. The city manager pushed this thing out and the council just voted for it. They didn't even consider anything. Well, no one saw all the meetings we had at lunch in the morning. Those aren't reported on, they're not visible. And so we dropped back and went, oh, let's do this again. And so we'd come to council meetings. We'd still study it like we did in the mornings and in lunch. But the council meeting, city manager, okay, here's step one, what the design would look like. And the council would rehash their arguments. It would sometimes scripted it. City manager, what about this thing? And the city manager would, they just rehearsed kind of the whole thing, the discussion, so the community could see the discussion that took place. We didn't do anything other than put on a little bit of a show to show that we're accountable. It works like all get out. Even redid the arguments. Is that fake? A little bit. But you're also showing people what you did. I mean, nobody made stuff up. It was accurate. We had one that was really same idea, bigger dispute with a hostile union and these foreign firefighters coming into our community. It was a long story, doesn't matter. But the council said, hey, I need to know what questions to ask. So I printed them out and said, and then they assigned each other that. Looked great, until one council member goes, okay, the question I'm supposed to ask is, West, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, and that's why I have no hair. 2 pledges, 2 principles. Nice quote from Ike, leadership's persuasion. Great quote by Thomas Paine. Don't trust anybody that doesn't hold them accountable. Accountability and persuasion. Okay, that's 90% of the program. We're gonna get a little more specific, talk about procedures and why they're important, and I'll scare you with a few stories. Any questions right now? All right, we're on track. Reasons for procedures. This is the danger zone. This is where I try to scare you just a little bit. This is where you go off the rails. This is where you end up being a circus. This is how you have really uncomfortable conversations between the mayor and Darren and I. Any of these topics, talk to your attorney or call me and I'll hook you up with our attorney. We have an attorney, you're paying for it. The pre-litigation program, you call me, you got free attorney for a while, but call your city attorney. Talk to Darren right away. Anytime as a council member, you think like you're being asked to do something that's not legislative, that's not about policy, you're being asked to weigh in on a personnel matter, that's a danger area. Because if you get outside your role, there's no insurance coverage for you. Okay? It's like you don't get, your car insurance doesn't pay for a traffic ticket, right? It does, I'd like to know who your insurance is, but our insurance will not pay for you making a willful decision that's outside your scope of duties. Anything with civil rights, somebody says, hey, you took away my freedom of speech at the council meeting, stop what you're doing, pause, call an attorney. Because even if you're totally in the right, it's a federal court that you go to, big money. Employment with employment practices, this is most common, firing, hiring even, disciplining someone, anything with employment, it's a danger area. Pause, talk to an attorney, give us a call. Anything with discrimination, whistleblowers, conflicts of interest are a good one in a small town, because in small towns, I'm willing to bet all of you wear a couple hats in the community. Everybody in here is probably involved in more than just the city. You can run into all of a sudden where you're on the library board and the city is approving a new library addition. Conflict of interest, is it really? Probably not. Does it look bad? Yes. So take care of it, step off, do whatever. I've advised, we've had similar situations. Nobody's in an actual conflict, just kind of looks like they might be. With the council members, step off the podium, come down, sit here in the audience, so it's very clear they're not voting on it. And then anything with public records, Open Public Meetings Act, I'm dealing with a lot of this right now, where Councilman A talks to Councilman B, then talks to Councilman C, not in a public meeting. That's quorum. Now you got a problem. City clerk says, hey, we have this chance to buy this property, the price is really low, we gotta move fast. So the city clerk calls all the council people saying, is that a good move? Should we do this? Should we do this? You just violated the OPMA. Okay, there is no, it's hard to get anything other than a fine from the state, but you'll have to redo your decision, and whatever you decided that way, null and void. It's a real pain. Then there's the three big ones that are summary. Don't do anything that's illegal. Don't do something that's legal in the wrong way, and then don't fail to act when you're legally supposed to act. Malfeasance, misfeasance, and nonfeasance. Personnel works pretty well for this. Don't violate the law. That one's usually pretty easy. This one, hiring and firing somebody, if you terminate an employee and you did it in the wrong way, that's termination doesn't stick. If you didn't like the person and you fired them because you didn't like them, but you did it the wrong way, the court's gonna throw them right back to your city. And if you thought they were a pain before, you fired them. That's not good. And then not taking action, if a developer comes in, wants to do a big thing, you guys kind of approved it, it went to go through the steps, comes back for the final vote, and the town gets kind of owly about it, and all of a sudden the city council says, nah, we're not gonna do that now. That's a lot of money. That's not acting when you should act. And that land use is usually where it comes from. I won't mention names, but there's a big one in a small town where they want to put a big housing development, everybody's excited about it, it was running through the city process, and then people didn't like the idea of it in their town, because it's gonna change our town, can't have growth, and the people rose up, came to council meetings, the council said, yeah, we're gonna disapprove that. It had already been approved by everybody. The council doesn't usually approve building permits. That one, big dollars, big dollars. A legal principle, you can't do indirectly what you're prevented from doing directly. Town XYZ. had a developer came in, wanted to build a parking garage near an airport. City council said, yeah, we don't like that idea. And rather than say no, they just waited, they delayed, they slowed it down. Financing fell through, developer had to go bankrupt and sold the ground. Purchaser of the ground after it went bankrupt was City XYZ. City XYZ, guess what they built? Parking garage. Developer came back to sue the city. They got the judge in the lawsuit so mad, the judge was swearing on the record at this town. That's bad. That also can get individuals. I was part of a city council, similar situation. Bunch of people that their neighbors were mad. City council voted against it. I luckily did not, because I listened to the staff when I was a council member. Old guy that didn't know what was what on the city council, he just voted wherever I voted. We were the only two not to get sued, personally. Think that decision came back for another look. Sorry about the courts, man.
No, it's all good. My apologies for being a little late.
Not at all. Here's a question. When are you not an elected official? When you leave this room, are you not an elected official when you're Safeway? Right. Yeah, you are always. City Council President of Los Angeles, Chris Christie, one liberal, one conservative. Yes, I go for balance in all things, not gonna upset anybody, never know I'm speaking. They both went on the record, not at a council meeting, talking smack. And it came back to bite both of them. Kim, more than once. She no longer city council president of Los Angeles, was like, I don't know, like a $300,000 a year job, something crazy like that. Thought they were just talking to their friends. Got recorded, got back. That legal to record? No, doesn't matter. It's politics. So stay in your role. You are only one of the majority as an elected official at the council meetings, council members. Really, really important. Represent the citizens, listen to everybody. Don't give them a read on what you think until you're at the council meeting. Then you should absolutely say what you think at the council meeting. That's the place to do it. Public speaking can be an action, and public speaking in any form. I don't want to ask, but if you have personal social media pages, this is a very common place where people get in trouble because they weigh in. Somebody asks you a question on social media, maybe a little bit with a knife, a little poking you at a little bit. You respond. It's a little bit late. You're not really thinking too sharp. You're a little mad. You've gone on the record. You've created a written record of your feelings, and now you've prejudiced any decisions you might have to make in the future. Much less anything, what if you talked about a member of one of your staff members that has a chance to defend themselves and you didn't give them that chance? It's a personnel issue. That's not even in the council's purview. Really common thing on social media. Our advice is always don't have social media. That's kind of a crazy thing to say out loud nowadays. But be very, if you have social media, if you have a Facebook page, Instagram, doesn't matter, be very careful. Put pretty pictures of dogs and sunsets and things like that. Try to avoid city business. Town very near where I live now, council member had his own Facebook page for talking about city business. Put the city logo on it. It became a circus at the next council meeting. People that were mad about that weren't any better. They were trying to stick him in the middle of the meeting, none of which was on the agenda. It was just this free-for-all fight, which a local paper took pains to point out to everybody how dumb they all looked. Don't do that. Oh, going backwards, sorry. Consequences of doing things wrong. Very quickly, if you create a negative impression of your town based on how the leadership functions in council meetings, people don't want to do business with you. I was at a wedding when I was city manager, was sitting at this wedding reception, like, picture the scene, right? Shooting the breeze to the person next to me. So what do you do for a living? Well, that person was the head of land acquisition for Microsoft. This is before Microsoft moved to Eastern Washington. And I'm city manager, I'm thinking, nice. Ephrata needs you. We got the, it's like, dude, no, you got this, you got a train track that bends, you got an airport, we don't want anything to do with that. I said, okay, if everything's straight and normal, what do you look for? So the first thing we look for before we even look at the train tracks, the airport, is the town run by adults. Thought about that. Yeah, I understand what you mean. Is it a zoo at the city council meetings? Do they have a permit process? Is it professionally run? Are they friendly? They don't have to wear a tie every day or something like that. It has nothing to do with that. It's how they do business. What's the culture of the town like to do business with? That creates, state officials. You think you go to Olympia and you want to apply for a grant? I worked with the mayor and we were like big money from the state. And the mayor was on our Twitter, social media, taking shots at the governor. What are you doing? Like I said, it kind of like that, which might be why I don't work there anymore. But the mayor said, but look at all the likes I got. Look at all the hits I got. Like, yeah, and we didn't get a grant for 7 figures from the state of Washington. Go figure that. So these are probably more, they're subtle, but they really have an impact on your town. And people really do watch what you do, and it really does matter to them. You can have claims. That's where I come in. Somebody files a lawsuit against you, I'm your first call. Well, Darren's your first call, then your attorney, then you call me. But let me know right away. Communicate early and often, because we can often help you out rapidly and avoid this. The best claims are the ones that never take place. Because we get involved early, we talk to people, we settle it, whatever needs to be done. But even if you're totally in the right, it's still gonna take your time. It's gonna take you out of your jobs. Being deposed is the worst thing ever. That's not the worst thing ever. There's a lot of things that are worse, but it's bad. And then of course, your rates can go up if a bunch of claims happen. There are worst case things, like I mentioned, happen to rehire somebody that you terminated. Lawsuits are just no fun. And a lot of people are making money except for you and me. And it's coming out of the taxpayers. The only people who are winning here are the attorneys. And then, let's say you just keep doing this stuff. You keep doing dumb things. You keep getting claims. Eventually your rates will go up. At our pool, we look at 5 years. We don't look at 1 year because we figure everybody can have one bad year. It happens, right? One bad traffic accident, one police incident. People file lawsuits all the time. We defend them. We're very pro-police pool. We're partners with LECPOL and WASPIC now. But if you keep doing them, I'm gonna have a talk with you guys and your rates are gonna go up and that comes out of your taxpayers. But really, your insurance isn't infinite. You have a limit on how much we can pay. And it's possible, remember the city with the parking garage? That went past their limits. And that came back that their taxpayers had to pay for what the insurance didn't pay for. Also, there are certain things you can do that there is no coverage for. You go, oh, we got sued, and we go, that was not covered. You're breaking the law. We you don't have coverage for that. What do you mean? So knowing that, and then eventually, it's happened twice since 2002, when I started getting involved with this, where I come to you and say, here's a letter, you're no longer in the pool, effective at the end of the year. Where we kick them out. And you got, like I said, if I mention the cities, you'd go, oh yeah, I remember that. You know when the state auditor holds a press conference in Olympia to announce the audit results of a city, that's a little weird? That'd be one of those times. Real quick, procedures. All of these are things you should, if you don't have, you should think about having. These are written documents that are policies and procedures that really put your culture on paper, and everything from having your oath of office and how you do it, hearings. This one's really, whoa, what did we do? Okay, don't know what I did. Council rules of procedure is huge. How you do business. I'm kind of nerdy, so like when I'm traveling, I like to watch city councils. That's interesting to me. Public access TV is better because you have a beer and you can sit down. But you see what goes on, you watch how they do business, there's probably a story behind it. If it's a zoo, it's like, oh my gosh, I can't stop watching. If it's not a zoo, Kalispell, Montana, was skiing, flipped on the TV, hey, come watch. My kid's like, now she does it, but that's okay. They were like, Mr. Mayor, I would like to ask City Manager Raines a question. Thank you, Councilman Wynn. Go ahead and ask your question. Thank you, Mrs. Mayor. And they would, like, hyper formal, ask somebody, sure enough, they used to be a zoo. So I said, okay, we're not gonna do it that way, we're gonna do it this way now. You can cease things. All of these complaint process, how do you process complaints? Do you have a form? Do you have a process? You have a policy? That's a good one. That's a good one to have, the complaint, how you take complaints. That way, people don't come to your council meetings and bombard you with something that might take away the rights of a staff member and disparage them in public. You say, whoa, 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 we don't accept complaints in the open meetings like this. Put it here, and then we have to follow up, because now there's a paper trail. We'll get back to you. It's accountable, but it's also eliminates some danger zones. Having org charts, which you have, nicely done. Great website, by the way. Like, I looked at this and, okay, Cosmopolis knows, they got some stuff going on here. These guys are wired. You had me come out and do training, you're double wired. But having these things in writing are all really good. Accreditations, just in the future, gonna be a bigger deal. Having departments accredited with Lexipol or with the state. Do you meet NFPA regulations? Are you with WASPIX accreditation? Those are things that are gonna save you money down the road. Nothing's required at the moment, but I can see where the insurance industry is gonna say, here's a rate if you're accredited, here's a rate if you're not. All of these, I can give you a model policy, you put your own name on it. That's how we develop all of these. They've been passed around, they've been attorney approved. They're a little old fashioned, but take them, use what you can use, throw out the parts you don't like. Now you got something ready, it's a good thing. Relationships, just as all wrap up at this point. Pause for questions before I do that.
We've got
Really
some
close.
personnel policies and procedures that were drafted, I'm guessing, well over 15 years ago. And we know some of those things are probably getting a little bit outdated. Do you guys review things like that for us?
You know, we can, but an attorney's gonna do a better job.
Okay.
I mean, if you sent that to me, I would, because I like you guys, I'm gonna give you my opinion,
Okay.
but I'm just an old city administrator that, I mean, an attorney's gonna look at it with a different set of eyes than I would. I might give you something that's useful, but I think an attorney would be better. But if you want that, absolutely, I'll do that.
Okay.
Yeah, chief?
Do you have model policies available?
Yes. Most of this council rule stuff and some of those personnel things, but yeah, we have some of that. And then I always advise, go to MRSC. They've got a lot of that stuff, also been vetted, also, I borrowed from the best, that's what you do, right? But take a look at that. Do your work before the meeting. Tell people don't surprise them. Do that work, do a little homework, little relationship building. Trust one another. Let the mayor be the voice, let Darren be the voice. You be the supporting, but you hold everybody accountable as elected officials. Always think, anything comes up, does this do which option does the most good for the most people for the longest time? Show your work. Don't have the study sessions and keep them quiet. Show your town what you're doing, but don't grandstand about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions I'm just a little unclear on. I know that there are council meeting rules and, even kind of the daisy chain approach of sending
Yeah, right.
messages through the grapevine that is subject to council meeting, public disclosures, open meetings. But I'm not clear on a couple of things about that. One being, does Darren, as the city administrator, count as one of those?
He does not.
Okay.
That's really key, because anytime you can talk to Darren about anything, anytime, it doesn't violate OPMA.
Right, and for us, quorum is 3 people, right? So any 2 of us can be in a room with Darren.
3 of you should not.
3 should not.
Yeah.
And then my other question is, as I hear comments on things like us kind of being on the same page, being transparent, I'm curious about just how other city administrators do that with those restrictions in place. So how do we kind of communicate about those things in a way that's open, but also, so for example, in the case of a council almost performing by a script. How
Right.
do they even go about doing that with those?
Went through, in that case, it was me, but you go through city administrator, like, hey, we got this contentious issue coming up. What are some really good questions I can ask that you guys will, have answers to? Or that would be good to ask this other person, wouldn't get me in trouble? That's a perfectly fine question. Your attorney doesn't count for OPMA violation. Staff members don't count. So whether it's your attorney, it's Darren, those people can help you out with those things. You don't want to ever do an executive. Executive sessions have, 13 exemptions. You gotta be real precise. Even though no one knows, you take that real seriously. That's probably the best way, is just having that time before the meeting. Think of the meeting as an iceberg. I used to have that slide. If you have me back, I've got a whole other thing on running a smooth meeting, but think of an iceberg. You do all your work ahead of the meeting with study sessions or with master plans, tenure plans, annual goals, and then the decision at the meeting is a little bit, kind of comes easier for you. There are towns, one no longer in our pool, thankfully, the council would meet an hour before the city council meeting, and they'd go through the agenda. Okay, item 1, how's everybody gonna vote on item 1? Okay, and any discussion about that? No, I think you're, okay.
So a study session is different from an executive
Oh,
session?
yes, study sessions are generally, they are open to the public, but they're not subject to OPMA, because you can talk openly, but the council would go through the agenda and choose how they're gonna vote, and then they come to the open meeting, and the meetings were 5 minutes long. That was a violation, because they're talking about how, you can only talk about how you're gonna vote in the meeting. Executive session, you can't discuss how you're gonna vote. You can, like on a union contract or any kind of contractual negotiation, you can direct staff negotiate this way, which that's a subtle difference than voting, but it's consensus based.
So the ways that we would communicate, in essence, are we can either do a study session, or we can relay things through Darren, and he can relay things out to the other council members.
I'd be careful in the relating things out to others is where you get a little bit afoul of the law. You can talk with Darren, Darren can give you advice.
I see.
If you want to talk with just hold a meeting, just advertise a meeting. I like having town halls before, like if you normally meet at 5, we'd have the town hall at 4 or at 4:30. And it's an open advertised meeting. It's fine for everybody to be together and talk business.
And we are gonna look at more of that.
I think they're great, because if you have people coming in, they can watch you a little bit, and yeah, you're a little bit careful about what you say if the reporter's in the room or whatever, but for the most part, it's a nice informal thing. We'd have coffee, we'd have donuts. We tried Saturday mornings for a while, coffee with the council. And no one ever showed up, and then pretty soon the council quit showing up. It's just the city manager and I. But those kind of things, you find something that works for you guys, and that's great. Please do not, and I did this, but we, after the meeting, go to the tavern and everybody have a beer and sit around and talk about the meeting. That sounds like a great way to work on a relationship and blow off a little steam. And Tip O'Neill, right? And Reagan. How did that look to the town? Right? Somebody walks by and goes, like, oh yeah, that's a bad idea.
So, sorry if I could.
Yeah, no.
So, in terms of them not surprising one another.
Yeah.
What would your recommendation be to, kind of get something on a town hall or study session agenda, and that maybe that's the first place you learn about it, but it's a little less.
That's fine, but if it's not surprising, call the individual and tell the individual, I have a problem with this thing. I want to ask you about this thing in the open meeting. So you better be ready.
Okay.
That doesn't violate OPMA. If it's to staff, it's certainly not a violation, but what you're doing is everybody looks good and the community is well served. All you're doing is making sure you're not surprising one another. Yeah.
And us as council, we can do that one-on-one with each other. We can't do it with 2 or 3.
Yeah. The biggest thing is the daisy chain. Like, Steve, if you call Jeremy, Jeremy can't call Justin. That's where it goes off the rail. But if you two just have a conversation, and again, be accountable in public. Hey, I talked to Jeremy about this last night, and I wanted him to be ready to answer this question, from the question.
We have 4 of us council on the same street within 3 blocks of each other. Do you know what it's like to go mow your lawn?
Oh, yeah, I had the city council president, myself, fire chief, and the police chief in the cul-de-sac.
Hey, Kim and I live right across the street from each other.
Yeah, I mean, just, the law says you guys can socialize, you guys could all go to the same Christmas party, not a violation, legally. Does it look bad? Kinda. Just watch it. And again, disclose to people, hey, our neighborhood, we did not talk about business, but we were all out in the street, we were talking about whatever. I
We
don't know.
just decided to put the new asphalt on our street.
That was a joke in your friend, it's like, our block will be the last one plowed, the last one fixed, that's just how it's gonna be. Yeah.
Can we, as individual members, to avoid a surprise call, say if I call Mark and then I say, hey, this is something I've been thinking about bringing up, and then can I reach out to each individual?
Nope. Nope, that's the same idea. Again, talk to an attorney. I'm not an OPMA expert, not an attorney. We work with MRSC, but your attorneys will know that. The principle is you only conduct business, which we'll be discussing votes, in the open council meetings, right here. So one-on-one is not a violation. One-to-one, it's creating a quorum with email, social media, comments on the same social media post. If you're all agreeing on city business, that could be a violation. A lot of things can be a violation. But usually if you do violate it, the remedy is you have to go back and redo the decision. And which can be very, very expensive. If it's like land use or something where you miss an opportunity, that's a big deal. But usually you're not gonna get fined or sued over it. I do have a city where they may have violated the OPMA and one council member is filed a petition to recall the mayor and another council member that they don't like. So that's gonna be a mess for that town, right? That's all over OPMA. So it's monetarily, not that big a deal. That's horrible though. This is a good one. You could pack your council chambers to the gills and they all want one thing. Is that crowd right? Maybe. You could have a packed community and one person sits in the front row and they say one thing. Is that person right? Maybe. That's your job. That's the fun. Sometimes you gotta balance that. Everybody in town wants this thing. Well, maybe it's illegal. One person wants this thing and maybe that's the secret, even though it's wildly unpopular. Our pool, not our pool, I don't even live there anymore, but my blood is in the concrete of that pool. It cost us a lot to get some stuff done. It's street work stuff that was unpopular, but then over time, people are like, I can't believe that was ever a controversy. There are times to be a professional, to be a solid council member, to be a city manager, a police chief, a fire chief, where you have to keep quiet. Somebody's got a complaint, people are mad, you gotta make an unpopular decision. Lyndon Baines Johnson, I just can't really, if you can tell, that's a donkey behind the shadow there. Lyndon Johnson said, sometimes being a leader is like being a jackass in a hailstorm. You just have to stand there and take it. And sometimes you have to just stand there and take it because doing something will violate a rule, will create a compromise, will affect a staff member. It just won't be the right thing to do. The magic words, let me get back to you. Or have you called Darren? That's always a good one too. City managers, phone always works. And if it's about Darren, then you should let me get back to you. And then, you talk to the mayor, do whatever. This is all review, follow laws, listen to your legal counsel. Never hesitate to call your legal counsel. Never hesitate to call me and I'll get you with legal counsel, or I'll give you what I know, or I'll tell you what our pool, we'll get a bunch of people, will get you an answer real quickly. Stay within your organizational roles, stay within your constitutional roles, remember your 2 pledges and your 2 principles. And be nice to everybody. Never be mean to the governor. Even if you have a beef with the governor, never be mean to the governor. That's right there. See, Freda, we were asking for about $9 million for a water line project, and it got held up by the Republicans and the Democrats fighting each other. So we brought the leadership to Ephrata, and they all came. I took all the chairs out of the council chamber. Everybody had to discuss it standing up.
Nice.
So that's we got through everything. And how we try to support you, and got some stuff. If you need it from me, ask. Little quick plug. We do all these things. They're all amazing. We have amazing people. A lot of our people, about half our staff are like insurance pros. About half our staff are people like me. They've had her out in the real world, and now they've learned insurance. So they bring a little bit of different angle on things. Investigators, we do anything for you. We have a ton of training materials. We all come and do it here. We've got the firearm simulator, which I assume you're familiar with, Chief?
We use it every year.
Good sign, you guys. We have a driving simulator that can simulate everything from water tankers. The snow plow really doesn't do the plow like it's plowing, but it'll simulate any vehicle. It's about decision making, and we all bring it to you. We're owned by you, and you elect a board of 10 that I report to and that hire my firm, who is for profit. We don't hide that, but it's one of the rare public-private partnerships in the state of Washington. We think we're pretty special. We come to you with anything, and if you want something that we don't offer, give me a call. We'll write it up. We'll create it for you, and then we'll come out and do it for you guys. Some other stuff, MRSC, there's some articles in the handout I gave you. You can look those up. Anything by a guy named Carl New, How to Run a Meeting, great stuff. Every council that I ever worked with, I asked them a set of questions and recorded their answers and kind of combined them. That's the majority of your handout. It's literally like, what did you want to know that you didn't know when you joined the city council? What surprised you the most? And I recorded their answers. Some good stuff there. Kane Mutiny, Hunter Bogart, great show on leadership. Can't recommend enough. There's a book on Lincoln on leadership, The West Wing, Teddy Roosevelt, all things that will help you do a better job. You get a little bit nerdy. There's stuff out there for you to find. If you want to get a hold of me, if I didn't give you my card, I got some more in my briefcase, but I am on social media because I'm not an elected official anymore. And you can find me at Craig OWC. Otherwise, there's my email, there's my phone number. Call anytime. This is what I like to do. This is my favorite part of the job, is coming out and talk to all of you. Last chance for questions before I shut my stuff off.
Excellent training.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. No,
Thank you.
if it doesn't come across, I really enjoy this a lot.
And, you know, I hope I can speak for the rest of the council, but I feel like training is very important. We're all really new at this, except Jim, and we would probably appreciate like quarterly training.
We'll come out and do it for you guys.
Maybe I need
Even
the
Jim.
video class or something.
Yes.
You might.
If I might,
Sure.
I'm not on council member. However, I appreciate your presentation here because it is against dictatorial government. And it is procedure that is against dictation. Thank you very much.
You bet. That's, I mean, American government is not a fast, efficient government. Dictators are very efficient. We are slow, we are messy, it takes time, but that is the safe, stable, long-run thing. Anyways.
Of the people, by the people.
Amen. All right, well, I'm gonna shut stuff off. You got more stuff, grab me in the parking lot or whatever, but thank you for having me out. Been a pleasure. Especially, you guys tell me why you served. I love that.
I
Thanks.
wish you were here about a year ago. Are we done recording?
Linda has to
Oh,
adjourn the meeting.
I'm adjourning.
I'd say 4 years
the-
ago, but hey, I didn't say that.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. Chief Lehman, will you lead us in the flag salute, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everybody here this evening. This is our first meeting of the year with almost a complete new council. And we have a returning councilman in a new position, Jim Ampage. I just want to say to all of you, we have quite a few people on Zoom this evening too, that we want to work with all of you. We want to be there for you. If you have questions, please reach out. If for some reason someone's busy and they're not responsive, reach out to me, reach out to Darren. We are here to work with you to continue to improve our community and build partnerships in this community. So, moving forward, I think we can, the oath of office.
So we will start with Mayor Springer. Please rise. Raise your right hand, please, and repeat after me. I, Linda Springer,
I, Linda Springer,
do hereby solemnly swear
do hereby solemnly swear
that I will support
I will support
the Constitution
the Constitution,
and the Constitution of the State of Washington
the Constitution of the State of Washington,
and the ordinances of the City of Cosmopolis,
and the ordinances of the City of Cosmopolis,
and that I will faithfully
and I will faithfully
and impartially discharge
and impartially discharge
the duties of mayor
the duties of mayor
of the City of Cosmopolis
of the City of Cosmopolis
according to the law
according to the law
and to the best of my ability.
and to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, Mayor Springer. Okay, now we have 3 council members who have not been given their oath yet. So please rise and raise your right hand and we'll take care of all of you. Justin, you've already done yours with the county, so if you want.
I'm good.
Okay, so I state your name,
I, Kim Skinner,
do hereby solemnly swear
do hereby solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and the Constitution of the State of Washington
and the Constitution of the State of Washington
and the ordinances of the City of Cosmopolis,
and the ordinances of the City of Cosmopolis,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
and that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties of council member
discharge
of the City of Cosmopolis
of the City of Cosmopolis
according to law and the best of my ability.
according to law and the best of my abilities.
Congratulations, council
Winning
member.
right now. Knew that was
We're going to call to order. Julie, could you do roll call?
Councilmember Skinner,
here.
Councilmember Wynn,
Here.
Councilmember Spargo,
Here.
Councilmember Collette,
Present.
Councilmember Ansich.
Here.
And it looks like all of our department heads are here. Thank you. So next, we're going to move on for approval of agenda. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Hearing, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So passed. Now we're going to move into public comments. We ask that you introduce yourself. You have 3 minutes. And it's for agenda items only at this time. I see no hands raised, so we will move on. Next, we have the consent agenda. Council, what is your pleasure on the claim vouchers?
We do them all together.
Oh, they do them all together, okay. As
Make
you
a
can
mo-
see,
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
so it's been approved and second. Any discussion?
What is the consent agenda item on the claims vouchers?
So there's a folder going around that has all the vouchers. These are the payments that the city will make today. So you're just approving the payments to the vendors.
Thank you.
With that, we, so we need a vote to,
We'll find out. So.
I don't need to read all of those.
okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So passed. Okay. Committee reports, and as you know, this is a brand-new council, so we do not have our committees designated at this moment, but they will be later in the meeting. So we will move on at this time. City official reports. Police chief.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I submitted a written report to you, but just to kind of go over the items that are on it, we still do not have an answer on the grants that we put in for. Not just the equipment grant, but the big one that we're really hoping for to come in that was associated with our body worn cameras. We hoped it would come before the end of the year, and we've been in communication with them. We know they've received it. We've provided some clarifying documents that they've asked for, so we know we're being considered, but still not an answer on that. That's kind of a big one for us. You guys approved our picking up of the Crown Vic that was more or less donated. We did get it picked up, and our volunteer work has begun on getting it outfitted and ready to go to be on the road. Would also like to draw attention to the attachment that I provided regarding life-saving efforts made by two of my officers. Doing CPR is not unusual for us, but when I get multiple messages from neighboring agencies and my own fire department personnel pointing out the exceptional job that was done and just the totality of everything, it warranted more than just a good job. But I'd like to acknowledge both Officer Bailey and Officer Tavis on an exceptional job saving a life that I believe is still sticking. Often CPR is not always turning out the way you want it to, but this was one that was exceptional. Pleased to report that Deputy Chief Mescal was able to return to duty after an extended medical issue. I didn't realize at the time in my report, but I replicated something I already reported on. It happened the same week of my last council report, but hey, attaboy, I'm getting the tires back on a car. But we did solve a commercial burglary that occurred in town and have submitted charges to the prosecutor. I don't want to disparage on anything, but I don't know that that will go anywhere because the caseload and everything else that's kind of going on with nonviolent offenses right now. But we have submitted charges on 2 for commercial burglary. Great job by Officer Bailey on that one as well, and the teamwork that went with it. Another one of note, this day and age when we have crimes involving our children in schools, take things very seriously, especially when it comes to threats. Officer Tevis did a phenomenal job of not only receiving the report and the initial information, but without hesitation writing search warrants, keeping phone records, tracking it down and solving the case. And that's also been forwarded to the prosecutor charges for the threats that were made to the school and to particular teachers at the school. I just want to say that was a phenomenal job. Other than that, everybody's already aware of most of the other items in the report that you're working on. The other item is the Grace Harbor 911 Operating Board elected me to be the small agency representative. So a new adventure on that one. We'll see what all I can help out in that regard. Apparently they thought since 30 years ago I worked there as a dispatcher that I'd be a good asset to it, but I think I've forgotten more than I learned. but we'll do our best. That's it for me.
Thank you, Chief. Chief Fowler?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council. Welcome to the fire station. I just wanted to extend an invite to you guys as new council members. Myself and I'm sure Chief Langman as well are available anytime you guys want to meet. Would love to get to know some of you guys a little bit more. Come see the station, come meet some of the guys and tour the facility and what we got going on here. We'd love to have you. Right now, we do have 6 recruits in the Grace Harbor County Fire Academy right now, so just wanted to update you guys on where we're at with that. We do have 2 other individuals in the EMT program through Grace Harbor EMS Council right now. So we're hoping to have all 8 of them complete in the May-June timeframe and get their certifications in their respective disciplines. And I was just talking with Kim about doing some sort of ceremony, hopefully joint effort with the Lions Club when that comes, so we'll keep you guys posted on that. A couple meetings ago, the council at the time approved us to apply for different equipment. It's a joint effort between police and fire to get some updated computer terminals in both police and fire vehicles. So we did submit that grant proposal, and then we have to present out on our grant proposal February 6th, and should know back kind of mid-February if we've been awarded that or not. And pending any questions, that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Chief. Jeff, would you like to do public works, please?
Yes. So over the past weekend freeze, everybody knows how cold it got. We had, I worked this weekend, and Sunday and Monday we had 14 or 15 calls for broken water lines, mostly under people's homes. It was really busy. They continued through today. Overall, we had about 30 homes that had water lines that were broke that we know of. I wanted to talk about expressing our thanks to the police department for helping us out with these calls. Officer Tevis was on call as well with me, and he was hounding me about letting him have a shut-off key so he can help us out. So I gave him one. We went over that, and they helped us out throughout the night when my kind of shift was not done because I'm on call, but they helped us out, and they shut off, I think 5 or 6. I think probably each one of them probably did 1 or 2 of them. So that kind of helped. It's just not everywhere everybody would do that with, you know, the police and public works, and I just want to thank all of them for every officer that helped us out and watched for water line breaks, and just want to say thank you so much for helping us out, all of us at Public Works. Thanks, we're really appreciative of it. So another thing I want to point out about our new water meters, we wouldn't have known from Tuesday to Wednesday today. We found 10 this morning that nobody even knew about, that were running wide open in people's homes, underneath in people's homes. They didn't even know. So we were out this morning. Thankfully it quit about 1 o'clock today, and I think we've got them all kind of shut off. So those are a big asset to us. There's a lot of them we caught in a couple of hours, not 30 days from now. So it's going to save a lot of restoration for them, and those meters were a big asset to the city and to the citizens. So other than that, last meeting I talked about the TIB grant that we were awarded. It was signed and now official. I ordered the lights last week. They're saying 6 to 8 weeks. So we're just gonna hurry up and wait for those and get them installed. So hopefully in the next couple months. Oh, yes. The light in front of the coffee shop in front of Shapansky's was finally put up and installed. We had a bid for $10,000 for the DOT to do it. It just came in, their billing was $4,200. So I don't know how we got that, but I'm not gonna say anything about it. So it's it came in really good, so in our favor. So anyways, that's all I have.
Administrator Raines.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to say congratulations to all of you and welcome. We look forward to working with you, and please feel free to ask us questions anytime. As staff, that is one of the most important things that you can do during meetings or any other time is ask us questions. You know, a lot of times when we're given presentations and if we don't get any questions, we're thinking, well, one, was I lucky enough to present it good enough to where they understand it? Two, did I confuse them? Or three is, you know, maybe there's some better ways to do things. And kind of like what we heard in the training and before the council meeting tonight, it helps give us better transparency with the public. So please feel free to ask any questions. There's no such thing as a bad one. That helps us do our job better and helps us to communicate better as well. So anytime you want to stop by, we welcome you as well. The other thing I want to talk about is the new building. I was notified by Roglins today. They've got about one more day's work. They're waiting for the rebar, the steel workers to come in, tie a little bit of rebar on the far corner over here. Once that's done, they'll pour that little corner of concrete. They'll backfill it, and then it's going to be put to bed until probably April, possibly May, depending on when we start seeing a little change of weather. So it ended up going a little bit longer than we had planned this winter, just simply because waiting for weather windows to get things done. One of the things I'm highly impressed about is, I was talking to Councilman Skinner about it earlier, is Roglins came to me the other day and there's a slight puddle in one part of the slab. And they said, we're just not happy with that. And I said, well, that's where there's gonna be some flooring. You're gonna put filler in there. You would never know. They said, we'll know. They're gonna come through and they're gonna plane that whole area down. That's how meticulous they are. They want it perfect. So I felt just great about that and I was highly impressed. So they'll be getting going on that probably when they get back in April or May. The last thing, and I've talked about it off and on for the last couple months, the comprehensive stormwater plan that we're working on with the cities of Hoquiam and Aberdeen. Because we were awarded a $400,000 grant with no match required, the cost to develop this plan for all three cities end up coming in around $680,000. We've approved not to exceed a $400,000 for the three cities. Well, Aberdeen is looking now to pull their portion of the grant funding out and attach it to another project they've got. So we're working on that with the Flood Authority, who is the distributing agency of the grant funds. We have a meeting tomorrow and that would probably be decided at that time. So it looks like it will be just us and Hoquiam working on that together. And then we are in the process of getting the remaining funds. We're seeking grant funding from the Flood Authority and Office of Chehalis Basin to fill the remaining needs for us. Otherwise, we'll expend that out, the 400,000. Well, it would be 133,000 something per city. The part that we would still need to come up with over that, we would stop once we hit that limit. So the city doesn't pay anything until the extra grant funding comes in. So that will be something that would come before the council, hopefully within the next month or two, to approve the additional grant funding. So that's just an update on that. Real quick, we've got some things coming up with the Planning Commission. Mayor Springer will talk about that a bit. We've got some really good ideas going forward, and there's going to be lots of ways for people to participate and help if you're willing. We're looking for any and all help, so that we encourage you to reach out if you want to help us in any way. That's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you. And now move on to the mayor's report. The action. Pardon? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just anxious to talk.
We're all surprised, Linda.
And so, Julie, could you please do the financial report?
It's not the first time. Kyle used to do it to me. That's all good. So, the end of the year, I've got my financials, the draft version of my financials done for the end of the year for the city. The general fund has ended up with $176,936, which is shy of the estimated 200 I thought we would end up with a few months ago. So I just wanted to give a report to the council to let you know where we're sitting, because the general fund is right now where the city struggles. That's where police, fire, city hall, building, parks, cemetery, all that comes out of the general fund. We just paid for mostly by taxes. Unfortunately, the first quarter of every year is always a lean time for the city. Usually in January, we get some B&O tax, and that keeps us going for a little bit, but it doesn't quite cover it. We make up for it through the rest of the year. Unfortunately, we're not gonna have that B&O cushion this year, and we're getting reduced utility taxes with the mill being down, so we're struggling. So, you know, costs have gone up and our revenues have gone down. So I just wanted to give you guys a little information. You can see in the chart on the second page of it where I can show revenues versus expenditures for the last 5 years. And it's tough, because like I said, costs are greatly outweighing the revenue that we have coming in. And then I did an estimated cash flow for the first quarter of the year using the ending cash balance, which is our starting cash balance for this year. So at the end of the first quarter, I estimate the city's gonna have, or the general fund's gonna have $1,537. And in calculating this, I took all labor costs out of Parks and Cemetery, and included the labor cuts that we had discussed or was part of the budget that we approved for 2024. So things are gonna be real tight. I'm just asking that everybody stay conservative with their spending, and we move forward and hopefully better things to come. The mill will get back up and we can get back to normal. And then I also included a copy of the draft financials for 2023.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And that's all I got.
And for department heads, I want you to know that we are going to be having regular budget meetings frequently. And we need to hear from you. Ideas, anything, any input at all. So, okay, I guess now it's time for the mayor's report. So, the first thing I will cover is action items. So I'm going to request confirmation for the mayoral appointments I did for the planning commission. And the appointments that I did, Darren King will be replacing Mark Collette. Janelle Martin will be taking Ed Van Sickle. I don't know if you know that he, I was told, has relocated, moved, which you know, is sad. What an amazing volunteer for many, many years. The dedication and time that he gave to this community. So I wish him well. The next individual is Mike Brown. His term ended 12/31. He requested to be appointed, and so I did appoint him. So if you could confirm these appointments, do I need a motion? Do I have a motion to confirm these appointments?
I move that those appointments be confirmed.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So, any opposed? Okay, so appointments confirmed.
We have to ask for the eyes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have any? So,
All in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so passed. The next, I'm asking that the council approve a special meeting date, which would be next Wednesday, the 24th at 6:30, is it 6 or 6:30? 6, for the consideration of the Westport interlocal agreement for police services and to discuss not laying off a police officer. Do I have a motion for that, to approve?
I move that be approved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have any discussion? All in favor?
We don't need a motion for a meeting, do we?
Okay,
Not technically, the mayor can call the meeting.
okay,
I didn't know if we were voting on.
okay, thank you. Okay, the other items are information items, basically. I would like to direct the staff and council to think about, as Julie just gave a report, you know, we are going into a tough year. But I think we have a creative staff. I think we can find ways to generate money. There are gonna be cuts. I'm looking at cuts. They might be minor cuts, but everything adds up. And, looking at our priorities. And so I'm gonna direct the staff and council to bring cost-saving ideas or other funding ideas to the special meeting next week to propose to the city council for ways to be able to avert laying off our officer. With that said, so often we talk about things, but we really never put a face to a situation, or we don't really humanize it, we just give a report. That's gonna change. I have asked the officer that is looking at being cut. Public safety, both in fire and police, are huge issues for our citizens in this community and important. And I'd like to ask Daryl Tevis to come up and I'd like him to introduce himself. So as we really think about the move that we may have to make, hopefully not, that we're gonna find creative ways to keep this officer, that you understand what we're losing here. Thank you, Daryl, could you come up?
Thank you, Mayor Springer, and for the introduction and for asking me to come here and speak tonight. I prepared some comments, made some notes so I can stay on track rather than rambling, which is really suffer anyway. So, many of you in this room know me, or we've met in passing over the past year. I'm not a citizen of this town, but I've been employed as a police officer here for the past 9 months. At the end of December, I was notified that I would be laid off on January 31st as a result of the 2024 budget passed by the previous council. This statement is not a plea to anyone to keep my job. Like many of you, I agree in transparency, and I feel that citizens of this town have a right to know what the effects of my being laid off will be. In order to keep this brief, I'll not be speaking to the emotional and financial impacts upon my family. Many of you have been laid off in the past and already know what those are. In December of 2022, my family and I were living in Texas. Chief Lehman, who I've known for many years, approached me and informed me he had been promoted to chief and he had an opening for a police officer in his department. At the time, I was employed with a steady job as an adult probation officer for Denton County, Texas. Because of my respect for Chief Lehman, both personally and professionally, I made the choice to apply and come work for him at Cosmopolis. Been here for the past 9 months, patrolling the streets of this town, getting to know many of you and some of you on your absolute worst days. Had I known or had any indication that my position would be temporary or contingent on the mill coming back online, I would not have left my job and moved my family back across the country. It was an absolute shock to hear in December that the city was considering laying me off in January. In the time that I've been here, this community has continually shown that public safety is of the utmost importance and that they expect their elected leaders to make that a priority. By way of a short explanation, I'll try to convey the things that are known about the current job market in my profession. Washington is dead last among the 50 states for number of police officers per population. In recent years, Washington has experienced a net loss of officers due to retirements and resignations, which has further deepened the staffing shortage. It's unheard of for veteran police officers to leave their job and apply with a small town that is on the lower end of the pay scale for the state. Typically, the only time you see that is where an officer has been fired or subject to disciplinary issues. However, that's not my case, as I already explained why I made the decision to come work here. At this point in my career, I would qualify in most states as a master police officer, roughly equivalent to a master carpenter or a master millwright. I have at this point over 15 years of experience in the criminal justice field, with over 14 as a commissioned law enforcement officer in this state. I've logged over 2,300 hours of training in my profession. Seeing as how the average worker works 1,920 hours a year, I have over a year's worth of cumulative training. That's approximately 1,580 hours more than someone who has just graduated the police academy. The dollar value of that training is well over $100,000 when you factor in salary and benefits. I also have a 4-year degree in criminal justice from a state university. I wouldn't even begin to estimate the cost of that with the way tuition has gone up. However, as any of my brothers and sisters in blue-collar professions know and well understand, paper certificates and spreadsheets with dollar numbers do not equal ability and competence. That comes from 15 years of experience in dealing with criminals, mentally ill, drug users, and the victims of their impacts. Over a decade of that was spent on the violent streets of Pierce County. If anybody wants to hear stories, I'm more than willing to tell those in private. That 15 years of experience and the 2,300 plus hours of ongoing training make me a valuable asset to this department and to this community as an employee. With the exception of Chief Lehman, no one at CPD and very few in the local law enforcement community have anything approaching this level of experience. And anyone who has ever worked with or been trained by me knows I want nothing more than to pass along everything I've picked up over the years to others in this profession. For the record, and before I finish, I would just like to state my appreciation to Chief Lehman and Mayor Springer for their efforts to keep our police department intact and functioning.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
So we're going to move on now to new business. Do we have council committee? Oh, I'm sorry. That's me. Thank you. So our new council discussion with some of you, and then with Darren and Julie, and just looking at this. So these assignments that I have assigned you to, I'm hoping they're a good fit for you. One of the things that we are looking at, that we may move you around quarterly to give you an opportunity to look at other committees, or you may really want to stay where you're at. So at this current time, the assignment, Public Works is Jim Antich and Justin Spargle. Parks and Recreation and Cemetery will be Jeremy Wynn and Justin Spargle. Finance Subcommittee is Jim Antich and Kim Skinner, and also will need to involve a citizen. Public Safety is Mark Collette, Kim Skinner, and Jim Antich.
There's only 2 on there.
Someone else being moved on. Oh, so we are. Auditing will be Kim Skinner, Jeremy Wynn, and Mark Collette. So what I want to add to this, to our council here, I really want to encourage you to reach out, to have citizens become part of your committee. And then when we come to the meetings, that when it's time for a report, there will be a report that involves what is happening and input from the citizens that are working on that committee. So if you know of people that may be interested, I'd encourage you to reach out. And the expectation is that you will hold a meeting monthly with your committee and those citizens. Oh. Okay, so at this time, because again, I'm new at this, I was just told that on the public safety, that we can only have 2. So at this time, it will be Mark Collette and Kim Skinner.
Yeah, just by way of explanation, if you have three council members in a meeting together, it's considered a quorum. And you would have to take minutes and send out notices and do all the things you need for a council meeting. So you don't wanna do that, you wanna keep it below the quorum.
Thank you. And as I said, this may not be a committee that you're real excited about. You can reach out to me. We can look at that. But I also would like, you know, I did speak with a councilman who has been on a committee for 3 years and, you know, just some discussion about maybe an opportunity to move around to other committees. So we will look at that down the road. Okay.
Could I ask, could you repeat who else is in auditing?
In auditing is yourself, Kim Skinner, and Mark Collette.
So,
That's 3.
On the auditing committee, that's where you review the vouchers and approve those for
Okay,
payment.
and they do that at the meeting here,
They
right?
do that here,
Okay.
correct.
Oh, yeah, that would be fine.
Or you can come into City Hall individually if you can't make the meeting.
I guess I do need to review those.
Okay.
Is that what you call the finance committee, or is
No,
that
finance
different?
committee is different.
It's different, okay.
Okay, then. Next, I need a nomination to vote for the council president, mayor pro tempore. Is there a nomination?
Nominate myself, or does someone need to nominate me?
You can nominate yourself.
Yeah.
Well, I nominate myself, Justin Spargo.
Is there any other nominations? Is the mayor allowed to make a nomination?
No.
No, this is the council. Oh, no. Anybody second the nomination?
I nominate myself.
So Jeremy, you nominated yourself?
I guess I.
I'll second the both of them.
So we have 2 nominations. Anybody else?
Well, I'll nominate myself.
Okay, so we have 3 nominations this evening.
Second that one.
Okay. Okay, don't be shy. So,
Mark, you want a shot at it too?
No, I'll just second yours.
so with that said, Julie, how do we proceed?
You would do a roll call, and each council member would vote on which nominee
Okay.
they would like.
Okay, so, Jim,
Who do you vote for, Jim?
who do you vote for?
I dare you, Jim. I vote for myself.
I'll vote for Jim.
Justin?
I vote for Jeremy.
Johnny?
I vote for myself.
Really easy, didn't you? Jim is our pro tem mayor.
Who is?
Jim.
Jim. Okay, so.
How did that just happen? We gotta do that again.
Most exciting vote ever.
Yes.
The only man with experience, I think, is probably the best word to put in that statement.
Okay, so with that, so we move on to item C. Chief Lehman, would you like to speak to the connections agreement?
I'd be happy to. Give me a second to retrieve it, sorry.
It's okay.
Hopefully you all received a copy of it. In a nutshell, we negotiated to not get a fee for the year. We met with her and explained the financial situation, and thankfully, because of the type of service they provide, it is a
Could I interrupt you for a minute,
Please.
Chief, please? Everybody did receive a packet. I hope they did review it, but could you please explain a little bit about the connection?
Sure. So it's a municipal contract between Connections, which is a Center for Health Families. This is the agency that provides our forensic child interviews for victims of violent crimes. The state mandates that it be a certified interviewer that has very special, unique niche training. And that's very cost prohibitive to do it within agencies. So the agencies throughout our county pool our resources and do a contract with Connections, which provides that. Another one of the requirements is that we have special rooms for these forensic interviews, with our goal being that the children isn't victimized more than once through an interview process, so it's one and done. So it's a room set up for their comfort. It's digitally audio and video recorded so that evidence is collected for trial if it goes that route. And again, the specialty people with special training doing it, they even have a dog that's got specialized training that hangs out in the room, and it gives them the ability to calm themselves and everybody else in the room, honestly. I kind of enjoy the dog myself when I'm there, other than the hair in my pants. Anyway, we sometimes use this resource a lot, and that's not a good year. But other years, we can go without a single one that we have to refer up there. But we've historically always paid a contract fee to retain that service. So we had a meeting, the director and I explained the financial circumstances, and she agreed that they wouldn't do a fee for us. Instead, it would be if we need the service, we would pay an hourly rate, hopefully saving us a significant amount of money. So the details of those dollar amounts are in that agreement, but that's what this is. And by the way, it's $50 an hour, which for what we get, that's unheard of. So if you have questions, I would do my best to answer it, but that's what the agreement is, and that's how we arrived at this number instead of a couple $1,000 contract.
So is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion that we agree with the contract from Connections.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? So approved.
Thank you.
Next, we move on to council comments. So, Jim, any comments?
I just had one, the water meters, I know I had a problem a long time ago. Did they ever get the ability to detect slow leaks, like a constant?
No, it's something that the girls in City Hall can look at one and see, like right now over that event, a lot of people are using about 2 to 3 cubic feet an hour. And we're able to see that because they're leaving the slow trickle on so it doesn't freeze. So like the ones that the girls found today and yesterday were the ones that were like 40 cubic feet an hour. We had one upwards of 140 cubic foot an hour today. So, yeah, so that, when it's so small like that, it's, yeah, and we're changing also Correct Equipment. It used to be the provider for Camstra. Now we're going, HD Fowler got that. So now we're moving into different people trying to, and maybe I'll be able to talk to them more, and maybe we'll be able to set parameters lower, but they do a good job. The girls at City Hall do a good job of checking those every day, and really, if they give them a red triangle, they're checking them out, and we had some hot ones on the press this morning, so.
One thing I can explain a little bit about how the leaks work in that software. So if you have a toilet, it's been historically leaking for a long time, that software won't register as it a leak because it thinks it's your normal usage.
Yeah.
But if you didn't, and all of a sudden it starts to go up, then we'll get flagged. It might take a day or two, and the software will notice it. So we basically go in that software every day and we pull up like a flag report. And then we look at the history, because sometimes it's a matter of somebody just, in the summertime, they filled up a pool and we know they did. So we know to ignore those, but we'll call people. If we have your correct contact information, whether it be an email address or a phone number, we'll get a hold of you immediately and let you know if we see those. So I strongly encourage everybody to make sure your information's updated with us.
Yeah.
But that's how that software works.
We did have one meter blow up today too, it froze, and that's the first one since we've used Camstra. So I'm gonna call back and see what kind of warranty, or I don't know if they're gonna do anything about it, but it actually split in half and stuff, so yeah.
That's all I had.
Okay, Mark, any comments?
I just want to say that the training that we had this evening was excellent. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Councilman Spargo, any comments?
No comments at this time.
Councilman Nguyen, any comments?
I'll just quickly say that in the months leading up to accepting a position on council, I've had a chance to meet with any of our staff and city leadership. some, but not all of our incoming councilmen, and of course, Linda, and I'm just excited to be working with such a group of great people who I can tell really have the city's best interests at heart. And I hope to be working more closely with our townspeople in the near future to do some great things for the future of our city. So thank you for the opportunity to serve.
Thank you. Councilman Skinner?
Hi. I just want to thank everybody for giving us the opportunity to help the city of Cosmopolis. I understand that a lot of us are new, we'll make mistakes, we'll try to learn from them. I think we've got excellent staff that can lead us and help us along the way, and look forward to working with you people out there as much as with these folks here. So.
Thank you. Public comments. Any public comments? So I see none, so we are going to move to adjourn. And before you, please stay for some refreshments, talk to your police chief, your fire chief, our city public works, Darren, the council people, get acquainted and enjoy some cookies, coffee, and refreshments. Thank you. We're going to adjourn the meeting. Hey.